Good evening, Monarchs. Thanks so much for joining us tonight for this Forward Together Town Hall. I'm Rick Lowe, the Vice President for Enrollment Services, and I have the pleasure of moderating this Town Hall tonight. Hope everyone is safe and healthy. Our community is really looking forward to seeing our new and returning students on campus in less than 2 weeks. Before I introduce our panelists and get started with questions, I'd like to introduce our president for some opening remarks. Many of you will recall the daily messages that Dr. Worden sent to our community from March until after graduation in May. I know our family enjoyed those messages that oftentimes conveyed hope, optimism, and positivity. And I really have appreciated the leadership he's given our university during this very challenging time. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce our president, Dr. Stan Worden.
Thank you, Rick, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this virtual town hall gathering. I have with me here tonight a group of Methodist University leaders who have been working for many months to prepare for a safe reopening of our campus and a return to in-person learning, residence hall life, and all the other things associated with campus living. Of course, COVID-19 also has caused us to do a lot of things differently than we did before the pandemic. And our university leaders will be talking this evening about some of those changes. I'm here tonight to assure you that the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff is our #1 priority. For most students, Methodist University is home away from home. We are committed to making the campus home environment a healthy and safe space where students have the opportunity to learn both in the classroom and out. We also are committed to ensuring that our students get the high-quality education MU is known for, no matter what happens with COVID-19. In addition to this town hall, we have launched a Forward Together website at www.methodist.edu/forward. This site contains comprehensive information about Methodist University's COVID-19 response. It also will be updated regularly with any new information we have about the pandemic. The website contains a combination of videos and explanations of how we are responding to the pandemic in everything we do across the MU campus. I recommend that you visit the site regularly to keep yourselves up to date. Since March, we have had an epidemic response team in place. This team consists of leaders from every area of the campus, as well as public health and medical experts. We also have consulted with expert epidemiologists, and we remain in regular contact with the Cumberland County Health Department. The ERT and other campus leaders will continue to meet regularly and to prepare plans to quickly adapt to changes that occur with the virus. There is much we cannot control about COVID-19, so we must all be prepared to be flexible and to react quickly. But while there is much we cannot control, there is much we can control. We must all recognize that containing the spread of the virus is our personal responsibility as well as our university responsibility. We are asking everyone to sign a pledge that affirms a personal responsibility to practice social distancing, wear facial coverings, practice personal hygiene like hand washing, monitor and report symptoms, and stay home or in the residence hall if feeling ill. I am confident that together we will have a successful semester. We will learn together, dine together, live together, and participate in campus life together. As long as we all share the commitment to do all we can to keep ourselves and each other safe, this will be a great semester. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Thank you, sir. We do have an all-star panel tonight, and Dr. Worden referenced that. I'd like to introduce you to your panelists before we get to our business at hand, and that's answering questions that so many of you submitted. First of all, I'd like to introduce our provost, Dr. Suzanne Bloom-Malley, Dr. William Walker, our vice president for student affairs and dean of students, Sheila Kinsey, our vice president for planning and administration and our chief of staff, Lynetta Allen Getty, director of health services, and Dave Evison, our vice president and director of athletics. First of all, I want to thank all of you tonight for submitting so many outstanding questions. As you can imagine, all the questions we got, we probably won't be able to respond to in this hour, but we have certainly tried to address that by selecting those questions that were most frequently asked by all of you. It's our hope that tonight's session, combined with our Forward Together website that Dr. Worden just mentioned, will address the vast majority of your questions. On a personal note, as a parent of a Methodist University student, a rising senior, I might add, I am really proud of our community for the work and effort that has gone into preparing for this fall semester, both in the classroom and outside the classroom. But we're here to do some questions and answers tonight, so let's get started. Dean Walker, our first question, and I might add probably one of our most popular questions. It's a multifaceted question, so bear with me as I phrase this. We've had a lot of students. We know social distancing is going to be very, very important through this process. And we've had a lot of questions about what's social distancing going to look like in the student life world. What's it going to look like in the residence halls, in the dining areas, in things like places like the Nimitz Fitness Center, Burns Student Center, student clubs and organizations. If you would just kind of paint a picture for what social distancing is going to look like in the world of student life this fall semester.
Thanks, Mr. Lowe. Thanks for the question. First of all, let me say as well, I'm looking forward to all of our new and returning Monarchs on campus in the coming weeks here. Over the past several months, the academic response team has been consulting with our state, local, and campus health officials. First, we're asking all of our community to participate and help us implement the guidance that they've given us. And the first thing that they've asked us to do is to wear a mask. So we're asking everyone to wear a mask in all campus buildings. The second thing is that they've asked us to do is wait. The 3 W's they call this. And that is that wait 6 feet apart from any one person. So when you are meeting or you're talking to somebody, stand 6 feet apart, standing in a line, stand 6 feet apart. The third thing they've asked us to do is to wash your hands. Wash your hands frequently and use the hand sanitizer that's been put up throughout the campus. When students arrive at the campus, they will notice that we have put up signs reminding them to do these very 3 things. We've also placed 4 decals around the campus where students have to wait in lines that designate where they should stand, which they will be standing 6 feet apart. So if we do that, that's our first responsibility, these 3 W's. So let's talk about the residence halls. The university has already taken steps to reduce density in the residence halls by simply housing less students. And so we have worked hard in making sure that we can provide adequate space for all of our students. The second is that we have reduced the capacity of all our lobbies and lounges in the residence halls. And so we won't allow everyone to gather in those spaces because we want students to practice social distancing while on the campus. And while you're in a public area of the residence hall, like a lobby or lounge, you'll be asked to wear a mask as well. That's gonna be quite different for our students, but we can do this, we can do this. Now, when you're in your room with your roommate and you're all alone, you won't have to wear a mask. But if you decide to have other student visitors in your room, we're gonna ask everyone to mask up, and that would help us as well. Now, one thing in particular, and this will be a little different for this year, we're not going to allow any outside guests in the residence halls. So the first thing the parents would ask, can I visit my students? So parents, I want to reassure you that we have made a provision for you, that if you desire to come to campus and visit with your student, you may do so in the lobby of the building. You may decide that you want to visit with them on the outside, one of our beautiful locations on the campus as well. Let's talk about dining for just a little while. All meals in our Green and Gold cafeteria, and that's our main cafeteria on campus, all meals will be packaged to go. Now, there will be some limited seating in the Green and Gold dining hall, but we're going to encourage everyone to get their meal, their lunch or their dinner, and to seek other places on campus. For instance, you can dine on the main floor of the Student Center. You can dine on one of our patios. You might even dine simply going to the library to eat or visiting our picnic tables on the outside in the quad. And we call the quad an area outside the green or outside of the Burns Student Center. So you may do that also. Also, we have designated our dining halls within the building, the Heritage Dining Hall and the alumni, as additional places for students to eat as well. One thing I want to say that saddens me to all our coffee lovers is that Starbucks has already indicated that they won't allow any refills. And so I know you love your coffee just like I do, but it has to be 1 cup for now. And then you have to come back and buy another cup if you want to have a second cup. So as we think about that, one major thing, one last thing for our dining halls is that all the major touch points, like the salad bar where everybody would be touching it, all those things will become, our staff will serve students that, so we don't have all those touches in the dining hall area. I want to say to for our clubs and orgs, we're going to we're going to ask most of our clubs and orgs to do most of their business virtually. But there'll be times that clubs really want to get together. We'll ask you to limit your gathering to 10 people if you're meeting on the inside. And if you're meeting on the outside, we'll limit you to 25 people. But we want to encourage our leaders to be creative and innovative as we try to convene clubs and organizations. One last thing. I've got a lot of questions about this, so I want to touch it tonight. Many people ask about campus recreation. Will the Nimitz Fitness Center be up and running? When students arrive back on campus, the Nimitz Fitness Center may not be open at this time. But be assured, when health officials give us the clearance and say it's safe to do so, we will open the facility for your use. We have already placed the machines apart so everyone can be properly social distanced. We've already spread out, we removed the chairs from the lobby and put equipment there for you to work out as well. So you'll be able to work out all over the facility. When we're given the clearance, we will convene intramural sports. But at this point, we may not have intramural sports. So when our health officials say we're able to do so, we will work to engage our students with intramural sports. And so that's all I have at this point, Mr. Lowe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Walker, so much. Hey, working closely with Dr. Walker and playing a key role in the development of the implementation of EU's protocols has been Lynetta Allengetty. I know I mentioned her a while ago as the Director of Health Services, but I will tell you, Methodist is very fortunate to have someone of Lynetta's stature on our campus. She's been a healthcare leader for over 30 years. So Lynetta, you might imagine during this town hall, I have a few questions for you. First question, what's the specific course of action taken when a student tests positive for COVID-19? What's the protocol?
When a student tests positive for COVID-19, first would be notification. And that notification will come either from the student themselves through self-identification or through a lab result. Most definitely, there will be no school, no work, no public transportation. The individual will stay home. And we have identified a designated isolation facility on our campus for those on-campus students who test positive for COVID-19. Along with the local health department and the guidance from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, we have established our protocols to be that students will be isolated for 14 days. During that 14 days, it will be the responsibility of the student to have all personal items that they might need during the time that they are in isolation, meaning any clothing, any medications, hygiene products, most definitely their items to continue their academic rigor during the time of their isolation. We will provide services as a service team in the manner of dining, other housekeeping measures, and any housing relocation will be assisted, and then most definitely health services. So during the time the student is in isolation, we will try to maintain the confidentiality of that student so that their care can proceed and they can be well. We will also have daily health checks sponsored through staff in the health clinic. So we will be monitoring their condition to make sure that they are improving. And if they are not improving, then we can intervene quickly and get them the services that they might need. Those are pretty much the isolation requirements, just that we do want the student to bring with them some personal items that will last for them for 14 days during the time of the isolation, and to include in their package at this time a thermometer and some fever reducing medications, and enough that will last them for 14 days. So that's an additional item that we will ask students to pack that they normally would not pack.
Thank you, Lynetta. Actually, a follow-up question. So if I'm the roommate of a student who tests positive, what's the protocol for myself as a roommate? And also, can you talk a little bit about just contact tracing protocol that we have in place?
Yes, if a student tests positive, then that student will be placed in isolation. The roommate will be considered a contact for that particular positive student, and may, depending on symptoms and testing, will be placed on what we call quarantine. So if the roommate does not have symptoms, that roommate will remain in the room. We will monitor their health status as well, and we will test. And we can provide the on-campus testing for COVID-19. So again, also that student will be monitored daily for symptoms or any change in their health status. I'm sorry, Rick, what was the other portion of that question? Contact tracing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, contact tracing will come in conjunction with the health department, our local health department, or the health department in which the positive test occurs. We have developed a team on campus so that we can do our on-campus contact investigation as well as contact tracing. We're in training. Protocols are developed according to the Department of Health and Human Services. The health department will also be in conjunction with us in helping us to develop and identify contacts that may spread not only on the campus, but off of the campus. And so those processes will take some time, but if we can, with our team on campus, we will be able to identify quickly and most definitely contain our transmission of the virus.
Thanks so much, Lynetta, for that feedback. Very, very helpful. I want to switch gears now from the student life arena to the academic life arena. Suzanne, I've got really kind of multiple part question I want to go through with you. In the scenario of a quarantine, since we were just talking about that, how would a student keep up with others in their classes if they're in a quarantine situation themselves?
In the larger context, one of our main goals in preparing for the fall semester is to be able to provide what we're calling flexible instruction of the highest quality for our students, no matter what adjustments we might need to make as a result of the changing conditions of the pandemic. To that end, our faculty have spent the summer preparing their course materials so that they're available in Canvas, which is our new learning management system. Every course your student is taking has an accompanying Canvas course site, which will allow them to participate fully in the course and stay up to date, even if they're required to miss class sessions because of isolation or illness. By the beginning of the semester on August 10th, each course will at a minimum have the following information available to your students in each of their Canvas course sites. They'll have the course syllabus with course policies, descriptions of major assignments, ability to submit assignments, and information on how grades will be calculated. They'll have a calendar and modules with assignments, options, and due dates, a weekly set of materials and resources such as links, videos, PowerPoints, recorded Zoom sessions, etc. They'll also have attendance tracking for in-person sessions, which provides a really important contact tracing tool for us if there is a student who does test positive. And faculty will also be using the gradebook feature in Canvas to provide feedback to students on a regular basis. Many professors will also provide additional materials to support what they're doing for flexible instruction. So they're focusing on ensuring opportunities for meaningful interaction, both interaction from student to student and interaction from student to professor, so that they're able to do that both in in-person class sessions when they have them and for students who might be participating remotely. And
A couple of other questions. Safety measures that are going to be in place in the classroom. How will they be managed? Students, faculty, I imagine they'll be asked to wear a mask. If you could just kind of talk about that, it'd be great.
yes, all of our teaching and public spaces on campus have been inventoried and measured for safe maximum capacity according to the CDC guidelines for social distancing, with seating arranged and marked according to those guidelines. You may have seen the video on our Forward Together website on classes featuring our skip this seat signs in classrooms and other spaces which have become a very important decorative and informational feature across campus. We are requiring all students, faculty, and staff to wear face coverings at all times in our buildings and classrooms and outside when interacting with other people. Our approach requiring facial covering supports the pledge we're asking everyone in our community to make, and that is that we practice an ethic of care and responsibility, wearing face coverings to protect each other. We all know that sometimes people might forget their facial covering, and in those instances, we're preparing every classroom and gathering area with a set of kind of emergency go-to disposable masks, so that when someone walks in and says, oh no, I left it in my car and I parked over here, or it's in my dorm, we're able to say, we understand this happens here, use the mask because it's important to us that you're able to be here and participate. We also have hand sanitizer stations placed strategically throughout our buildings. We'll have cleaning wipes or supplies in all classrooms, and students and faculty will be asked to wipe down their desks, tables, equipment, both as they enter a room and as they exit a room. Hallways, staircases, and doorways where possible are marked to indicate paths of travel so that we don't have people passing too closely by one another in tight hallways. And then the other thing that we've done for the fall 2020 for our classes with larger enrollments and or the courses that are in specialized classrooms, for example, our biology and chemistry labs, we've modified our approaches to instruction in a variety of ways. So in these cases, we may have moved a classroom to a larger instructional space. By the middle of next week, students will be notified to look carefully at their course schedules again online to see if any of their classrooms have changed. Some faculty are using what we call a cohort model. So they'll ask a percentage of students to attend class in person one day, while another percentage of the class attends remotely, either via Zoom or conferencing technology, or using materials on in Canvas, and then flip that another day. Other faculty are offering some components of courses remotely, so kind of doing a lot of the teaching and material remotely and using the scheduled class time to meet with students in small groups. And we are also at this point offering some classes in a fully remote setting. We may have students who are notified in the course of the next couple of days that a course that is scheduled face-to-face is going to shift to a fully remote class because we have a faculty member who's not able to be on campus for reasons of high risk. Students will be able to, again, we've got robust infrastructure in Canvas for students to participate remotely. We also will be asking students if they have concerns about that to contact their advisor to work through any changes to their schedules they may end up wanting to make.
Great, thank you. You just touched base on one of the questions I was going to ask, but just as a follow-up. So students will be informed if their in-person class has been moved to an online format, correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely, yeah.
Great.
We are, as all things, as the situation with COVID-19 continues to evolve, we are working through issues and concerns as they come up. So we should by early next week have that information complete as to which courses may shift to remote instruction, and we will be notifying students directly and again connecting them with their advisors in case they have questions or concerns.
You know, in March, when we went to remote instruction, I know you've used the term, and I think it's very accurate. What we really went into was emergency instruction mode, because that wasn't something any college or university was planning for. And some of this you touched on earlier, but I would like for you to maybe do a little deeper dive to let our students know. I know personally how much work you, your staff, our faculty have gone, how much work has gone into enhancing our remote instruction and online instruction capabilities. Could you do a little deeper dive into that to let our students know kind of where we expect to see some real enhancements?
I think, as I noted earlier in my comments, kind of the approach we've had to comprehensive every course on campus, developing an infrastructure for the course in our learning management system so that we are prepared in advance for the changes that may come or for students who need to be remote. In the spring, it was a sudden shift. Now we've had time to both think about getting much more adept at the tools we can use. Again, as I mentioned, fundamentally not just putting stuff in the learning management system and pretending that it's like a textbook and learn yourself, but rather really building in the teaching and learning tools so that we are encouraging the kind of interaction that is so crucial to a college education. It's not just watching a video of your professor talk. It is engaging with the other students in the class, talking with them, the feedback from the professor. So we've been focusing not only on the materials we need to provide to students, but also how we adapt our pedagogy, how we teach, provide, in this flexible way so we can offer really the best possible situation while being prepared for, as I say, whatever COVID-19 throws at us. I would also add that preparing in this way allows us to anticipate the fact that conditions may change for an individual student, for an individual faculty member, and that may be for a short period of time, that may be a long period of time. So the work, and I really have to express incredible gratitude to the faculty who have been working nonstop all summer in preparation to be able to give our students the best possible fall experience we can. It is not a typical faculty summer to spend all summer in sessions learning how to use new tools and develop a robust infrastructure for a class online. So they've done incredible work because we are so excited about seeing our students again in some capacity, whether it's via a screen like this or in a classroom. I would also add, we understand that some students want to begin or continue their studies at Methodist with us this fall, but are not going to be able to be on campus with us. In the courses section of the Forward Together website, there's contact information because students in this situation can reach out to Dr. Tina Miller, who was coordinating all of our efforts across campus to see if we are able to establish a fully remote schedule for a student who needs one and keep them on path to completing their degrees. It may or may not be possible. We're going to do everything that we can to make that happen. And we're exploring options that include both courses that are already scheduled to be delivered online, and they were from the beginning. Courses that are shifting to remote because we have faculty who need workplace adjustments for remote instruction. And we also have many faculty on campus who, following their preparation this summer, said, you know what, I can have a class, I can teach with students here and students remotely. I'm prepared to do that. So we have options for students. It will take a very individualized approach. There's no blanket way to make that happen, but we're prepared to do so.
Thank you so much for the incredible info. I indicated earlier, but again, as the parent of a Methodist student, I know how much work your team has done over the summer in very difficult and challenging circumstances, and I'm very appreciative to you, your team, and our faculty. So thank you so much. I want to kind of shift gears now, although I might come back to you later, Suzanne. So bear with me. I want to shift gears to a very integral part of the Methodist University community, and that's the Monarch Athletic Program. Dave Evanson, our Vice President, Director of Athletics, I'd just kind of like to talk to you. A little news came out of our conference, I understand, yesterday, and if you would, just kind of debrief us on the status of our fall sports programs.
Sure. Thanks, Rick, and thanks to everybody for taking the time this evening to join us in the ever-evolving landscape of COVID-19. Yes, we had some news this week that we spent much time deliberating. I'll tell you that since March, when we had to make the decision to cancel our spring season and everybody ended up going home, the athletic directors of the USA South have been meeting tirelessly. The presidents have been meeting tirelessly since the time we left to figure out how we're going to re-engage and how we're going to get athletics back off the ground again in the fall. And we were making great headway, and obviously with the pandemic and the nature that it's taken and the turn that it's taken lately, this week the President's Council of USA South voted unanimously to postpone fall conference athletics competitions until the spring. The sports that got impacted were football, men's and women's soccer, volleyball, and men's and women's cross country. So right now, our goal now is to currently work with the USA South Conference to develop, and this will be historic because this has never happened, but to develop schedules for our fall teams to compete in the spring along with our spring and winter teams. So a task, but we'll find a way to get it done. We owe it to the student athletes to get it done, provided we can do it in a safe fashion. So that's our next goal from a conference perspective, is to take those sports that were impacted and be able to, to formulate a schedule that works both with our spring and our fall and our winter teams with the overlap. And, we're not alone in this decision. I think, and maybe it's probably less at this point in time, but the last I checked, I think there were 7 left, 7 conferences out there left that had not made this decision in Division III. But I would anticipate that number probably goes down to 0 here in the coming weeks. The one thing the NCAA has done is they've created a blanket waiver, which has been extremely helpful and will be extremely helpful, not only to our fall sports, but our winter and spring sports. Traditionally, athletic seasons are counted in weeks. So the NCAA gives Division III institutions traditionally 19 weeks to complete your traditional and non-traditional seasons. So what the NCAA has done is they have taken the 19 weeks and they've broken it down, and now they're going to say, you start your seasons when you can, whether that's in August, September, October, November, December, January. You have 114 days to navigate your schedule, to practice and to compete until the end of the academic year 2020-2021. So not only will this help our fall teams, this will help our spring and winter teams as well, as we navigate, number one, the uncertainty with the coronavirus, but as all teams end up potentially participating at the same time, to be able to navigate facility spaces, student athletes who are dual student athletes, to be able to participate in their multiple sports. So it's a great thing they've done, and it will really help us as we plan get ready for our participation.
Thanks so much, Dave. I appreciate it. Sheila, Director of Vice President of Planning and Administration and our Chief of Staff. Our next question relates to what the university is asking students to provide and in the areas of sanitation and PPE. And if you could just tell us a little bit about what students are expected. Are they expected to bring their own mask? Will the university supply these masks if they forget them? What types of sanitation stations do we have available in the various facilities on campus, the residence halls, the student center, dining areas, classroom? I know a lot of parents have concerns about this topic. If you wouldn't mind addressing this, it'd be great.
Sure, thanks, Rick. The university will provide each student with 2 masks that are washable masks. So I think they'll be covered with those 2. I would encourage students to bring their own masks if they have particular masks that they like that are very comfortable for them, because we'll be wearing these all the time, and I think the more comfortable the mask, the more likely we are to keep it on. So you can certainly survive with 2 masks and just wash them frequently, but I would encourage students to bring more, so they don't have to wash very often, because if your students are like my 2 children, washing is not on the top of the list, and I think it's important that we keep those clean. So I'd encourage them to bring those masks. I also, though, want to reassure you that to the point Suzanne made earlier, if your student gets to class and they've forgotten a mask, if they get to the dining hall and they've forgotten a mask, we will have masks on hand to share with them so they can get their meals, so they can go to class or do whatever activity they need to engage in at that point. These masks will be disposable though, so they're not to be used over and over. So we think we'll give them a good starter set, and we have the emergency masks whenever they need them. On the topic of cleaning, I first want to say that we have got a superintendent of housekeeping and her assistant who have over 20 years in cleaning in the healthcare environment. They've worked in large hospital systems. So they're very knowledgeable and comfortable in disinfecting and cleaning in these sorts of times that we're in now. They have worked closely with Lynetta in confirming methods they need to use. So we have a team on the ground that's comfortable cleaning and disinfecting. As a general rule, in all the public buildings, we will have hand sanitizer stations at entrances and exits and placed throughout the building on stands so they can use hand sanitizer. We will have disinfecting spray and wipes available in all the classroom buildings and other buildings such as the student center, so that students can wipe down any surface they're about to sit down at or have to use a desk, door handles if they really are worried about that. So we'll have those kinds of things on hand in the public buildings. In the residence halls, we will have those items available in lobbies and in the public areas of the residence halls. We do have 2 residence halls that have community bathrooms on the halls, and our housekeeping staff will be cleaning those twice daily, once on the weekend because we don't have as many students, but they'll be taking care of those restroom facilities, and they will take care of the lobbies. For student rooms and the bathrooms that they use that are in the suite style residence halls or in the apartments, the cleaning of the student room and the student bathrooms will be the responsibility of the student. So I would encourage them to come to school with disinfecting wipes and with hand sanitizer, even to keep in their rooms for use on those situations. I'd encourage them to bring a little bottle of hand sanitizer and keep it in their backpack. So if they're in a situation that they can't wash their hands, they at least have that. Obviously, hand washing is best, but if they can always have some hand sanitizer, that would be very positive. I think the other thing that I would bring up to you is that our staff will be cleaning and disinfecting high-touch areas very frequently. So stair rails, door handles, doorknobs of offices that have doorknobs that are frequently used will be disinfected at least once a day and more often in high-touch areas.
Thanks so much, Sheila. Dave, I want to come back to you, and I actually can't believe I forgot to ask you this because I had a parent call me today and we had this conversation, and I specifically promised her I would ask you this question. So here's the question. And again, it relates to the decision that came out of the conference yesterday, but will student athletes be able to practice and interact with their coaches during this time period?
Sure. Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Yes, our intention is to still have our teams engage in athletic related activity. Those things could include practice, skill development, strength and conditioning, leadership development opportunities. And a lot of that's going to depend on the North Carolina State health guidelines and the NCAA guidelines that we've been given. But our intention is to, yes, to fully engage our teams, whether it's fall, spring, winter. This encompasses all of the teams at Methodist. Again, it goes back to that 114 days where we don't have, in season, out of season anymore. Everyone will have the ability to count those 114 days throughout the year. The other thing that the NCAA has done, because one question that I get is, well, if my season's been postponed, and I practice, will I lose the season of eligibility? And really excited about what the NCAA has done here. They provided a blanket waiver for student athlete participation that allows student athletes to retain a full year of athletic eligibility in the event their team does not play in more than 50% of the maximum number of contests. So, just a couple of scenarios. You come back in the fall, we end up practicing all of our teams. We don't end up playing a competition. Their eligibility is safe. This is historic legislation by the NCAA. And again, it goes back to the flexibility piece, that they want to give the student athletes every opportunity to participate without jeopardizing their eligibility. So if we don't make the beyond 50% mark in any sport this entire year, the student athlete would preserve their eligibility, which would be great and give them an opportunity to make some informed decisions if their seasons are either cut short, don't get started, or delayed. In our initial planning right now, we have a staff meeting today. Again, every time we have a staff meeting, things change, but I appreciate our coaches for being so flexible and the amount of time that our coaches spend with our student athletes on the phone and recruiting and the relationships that they build with them. It's amazing. But our initial thoughts in this is come back, get all of our students reacclimated to campus. Don't do anything athletic related in August. Let's get our school class right. Let's get our dorms right. Let's get our social right. And then in September, provided it's safe to do so, then let's start to plan our athletic practices in whatever form or fashion those end up being. And I'll tell you, as a former fall coach several years ago when I got out of coaching, this is an opportunity, and our freshmen don't know this yet. Our upperclassmen, they'll experience it, but it can be quite overwhelming for a freshman fall student athlete. You come in August, you're given about 2.5 to 3 weeks to get adjusted to college, make new friends, learn how to live in a dorm, learn how to go to navigate the campus, figure out where your classes are, make new friends. But while they're doing that, they're trying to figure out their athletic team and they're trying to get ready to play a season. And I mean, I've seen the looks in their eyes for many years of, their eyes are really wide open, and that won't be their experience this year, which is good. I really think it's a great opportunity for people to really get settled, specifically our freshmen. And then, all of our fall teams have an opportunity to do what our spring teams do every year. Get their feet on the ground, get used to Methodist, build team cohesion and camaraderie, and get a good chemistry as they prepare to enter the winter and the spring so they can get ready for their season. So a lot of good things can come out of this with some of the challenges that we've been presented. So we're looking forward to it. And anytime you can make history and do things a little bit differently, I know they'll take pride in that, and we'll help them navigate it every step of the way.
Awesome feedback, Dave. I couldn't agree more about the transitional element of this, particularly for our new students. I think there's some potential real value added through this scenario, and I appreciate you addressing that issue. Dr. Worden, this next question is for you. I actually have had this conversation a few times with parents the last couple of weeks, and I guess would you mind addressing what the landscape would need to look like to initiate or prompt the institution to consider closing or moving back to a remote instruction only mode? Can you talk about what that landscape would look like that would maybe cause us to make that decision?
Sorry about that. I needed to unmute myself. Yeah, that's a good question, unfortunately. And I want to preface this by saying that it is our intention and our plan to keep the university open for in-person teaching and learning until Thanksgiving. But we do have to acknowledge that there is a possibility that we may need to shift to remote learning at some point in time. And this is really going to be dictated by health officials and by the state of public health on our campus. So if we were to have a large number of students or employees who became symptomatic, we might decide to shift to remote teaching and learning, at least for a while, or we might be instructed to do so by health authorities. As Dr. Blum-Malley said earlier, this could be temporary until we receive test results, in which case the students would not be sent home. But if we were found to have a significant outbreak on campus, we might have no choice but to ask students to vacate the residence halls and to shift entirely to remote learning. And this again would be determined by health experts. We're really relying on the expertise of public health officials to help us get through this and to make these kinds of decisions. As you've heard already from the provost, we're ready to go, whatever might happen. I think the provost mentioned Canvas, our new learning management system, and that's going to make remote learning much more convenient and much more effective. I felt that we did really well with emergency remote teaching in the spring when this caught us off guard like it did everyone else. But we're going to do even better with planned remote learning this fall if we need to go that route. So I have no concern that even if we have to go that route, our students are going to get a top quality education.
Thank you, sir. Lynette, I promised I might come back to you. I haven't forgot. We're actually getting close to the end of our time together, so these might be the last couple of questions, and I may try and squeeze one more in for our provost if we have a chance. On campus, Lynette, does Methodist have anyone that can medically address symptoms and test?
Sure, Rick, we do. We have our University Health Center. It is staffed by a PA and a registered nurse, which is myself, and we both are available to assess symptoms or any other health needs that the students might have. We will use two formats. We will use a telehealth format where that is a real-time video teleconferencing and also face-to-face when necessary. So we are available for assessments, treatments, triaging, and as well as testing. So we will be able to test on site in our student health center. We're using a LabCorp as our lab, and hopefully we can expedite our results for testing. But the most important thing is that we can test, and I think that will be important for our campus university.
Absolutely. That's great to know, Lynette. I appreciate that. What about cases that originate off campus? How will MU be informed of test results?
Again, those will be self-identification or either through a lab test. Sometimes the health department may contact the health center to help with contact tracing or to locate maybe someone who is positive that they have not been able to locate, but usually it will be self-identification or through a lab test. And once we do receive that information, then again, we will go in the mode of contact tracing, contact investigation, testing, isolation, quarantine, health monitoring, working along with the local health department, and most definitely following the guidelines of CDC, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the local health department.
Great, thank you. Sheila, I've actually got a quick question for you. So I know we've got this comprehensive website, Forward Together, but I've also heard a little buzz about an app we have on campus. Could you talk a little bit about that app and how do I get that app?
We do have an app. One of our staff members actually developed this app, and it will be available on the App Store for both Apple and Android devices. And it's really pretty pretty simple. It has some questions that we're going to ask students to answer and kind of help them self-monitor on a daily basis. The information will be compiled. It will remain confidential, and it will be funneled to the health center where Lynetta and her staff will review the information. And if they have any concerns or any questions, they will then reach out to the individual whose information caused the concern and begin to do some investigation in that manner.
Great, thank you, Sheila. We do have a couple more minutes, so Suzanne, I'm coming back to you if that's okay. And some of this you talked about a little bit earlier, but I think it'll be just helpful to kind of reemphasize that in this landscape where so many things are going to be done remotely, one of the values of Methodist is phenomenal advising and the ability to meet individually with faculty members. If you could talk about the accessibility of our faculty members and our advisors in this landscape versus where we were prior to COVID-19, could you kind of run through that scenario for us?
Absolutely. Well, I think the good news is that to a certain extent, with the ways in which both faculty and staff have embraced teleconferencing tools like Zoom, like we're using right now, to a certain extent, we are increasing access. Faculty and staff will be available, advisors, faculty advisors, staff advisors, all of our students' academic support services, the tutoring center, the writing center. The tutoring center and writing center are doing both remote and in-person, when it can be done safely, sessions. The advisors as well. We have some spaces that are small, so we're encouraging, and we have a large, beautiful campus, so we're encouraging both faculty and staff when meeting with students to, if it's possible and safe to do so, and what's being discussed makes it possible to do so, to use some of our outside spaces for face-to-face meetings. Everything we're learning about this virus suggests that outdoor interaction with a face covering is safer than indoors. But our advisors, faculty advisors, and staff advisors remain completely available to students, either remotely or in person by making appointments. And in some cases, the remote appointment, in a way, because you're able to talk to one another without a facial covering, there may be some instances in which you're able to provide better feedback, better counseling, better advice to students, because you can see each other and take advantage of all that we do with our faces when we communicate. But I don't see any reduction in availability of our faculty and staff to students. I think in many ways we've provided wider range of accessibility to them.
Thank you. And one more quick one. I know a few students have asked this question. I actually had one of our ambassadors asked this of me the other day, one of our tour guides. Now we made a transition when we went remote to a pass-fail rating scale. Is that type of scale going to be available this semester?
So at this point, we have standard policies in place that allow students to opt into pass-fail or to withdraw from courses. Typically, that's not an option in a course that's required for a student's degree path. Given the emergency shift in the spring and the flexibility and so many unknowns for us about what our students were experiencing off campus in terms of their ability to access classes and be available, we extended the options for pass-fail and the options for withdrawing from a course. For fall, our plan right now is to resume our typical standard practices as defined in our academic catalog. However, if we experience another significant disruption, we will evaluate the best ways to provide the flexibility students need to successfully complete the semester. So it's not a non-answer answer. Right now, we're going back to the normal, but we always have the option of what we did and of extending pass-fail and withdrawal. And we're even better at it now. If we have to go that route, we understand how to communicate it and what students are looking for. In the spring, we provided the option to choose your pass-fail grade after you knew the grade you were getting in a course. There were several institutions across the nation that did that. And in a way, to my mind, what we did was really provide the best option for students. So, you know, you were afraid you're going to get a terrible grade and you ended up with an A and you're kicking yourself for having taken pass-fail, you know, so, but we're going to keep our eyes on what happens and what we may need to do there. It's very difficult to predict what the pandemic will bring our way.
Absolutely, and I certainly, and I know our parents and students appreciate the incredible flexibility on your team's part. This is really, we've wrapped up our time for the questions. In a few seconds, I'm going to turn the evening over to Dr. Worden for some closing comments, but I do want to remind all our visitors online tonight, our students and our parents, while we didn't answer all of your questions, we tried our best, our absolute best, to focus on those that were asked most frequently. And I do hope this has been a helpful session for you tonight. We appreciate your time with us tonight. And we certainly, as I said earlier, we cannot wait to have our Monarchs back on campus. I'd now like to turn the evening over for some closing remarks to our president, Dr. Stan Worden.
Thank you, Rick. And thanks to our entire panel tonight. You know, I've been in higher education for a long time, first as a professor and then for many years actually as an academic leader. And I have never worked with a leadership team as caring, as competent, and as confident as this group of people. So your sons and daughters are in very good hands at Methodist University. And I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. I'll close by saying that one of our key commitments this semester is flexibility. We will continuously monitor COVID-19 and we will be prepared to make rapid changes when we need to in order to protect everyone's health and safety. We have discussed our plans with you tonight and on the Forward Together website, but we all need to be aware that as the trajectory of COVID-19 changes, our plans must change too. And we're prepared to make and communicate those changes very quickly. It's an honor for us to be entrusted with educating your sons and daughters and giving them a positive and memorable campus experience. And we'll continue to take this trust seriously. Together, we're going to make this semester a success. There's no doubt that there will be frequent challenges this semester, but if we face them together with a commitment to caring for each other, we'll be able to address the challenges effectively. This also will be an exciting semester full of promise and success. I look forward to welcoming our students back to campus to begin classes on August 10th. In the meantime, if you have other questions that we didn't cover tonight, please email them to president@methodist.edu and we'll do our best to answer you in a timely manner. So again, thank you everyone and good night.